jumping ahead, because I got to tell you one of that chips full thing. I'm going to talk about the radial arm saw. Unless anybody's got any questions on this. The radial arm saw, everybody knows, is climb cutting, and there's always been talk that you got to have negative hook or at least a zero hook. And a lot of misconceptions are about that. They think that reduces the pull. It does not. It's absolutely wrong. The pull is the pull. When you're climb cutting, you're climb cutting. That blade wants to walk up on top. It doesn't matter if it was just a frisbee. It's climbing. It's always going to climb no matter what angle the teeth are. What that angle of the tooth does, if I can get around here and grab one of these. When you have a regular saw blade cut, it's got a positive hook. That one's a negative. This is the best blade that was ever made. Combination plane. No table saw shouldn't have anything else but this in my opinion. A lot of opinions, guys. All right, so on a table saw, the material is coming in from here. And you see, as soon as it comes in, it's coming in contact with the face of a tooth. Even if it didn't have the big gullet, it's going right into the face. That pressure of that saw blade is built around the circumference of the blade. So it absorbs all that. You see burn marks that come in, that's what's happening. That blade is actually turning into a spinning potato chip once it gets hot. It'll expand and twist. That's where all the strength is. Now you turn it into a radial arm saw, and now your material is coming in from here. You can see on this blade, if you can't, you guys got to see this, that blade is coming down, and that stress is going directly up into the plate. It is no longer being directed around. So that tooth is getting ungodly torture, all right? And we'll get these things in, and literally not the carbide, but the entire tooth body will be just blasted right off. 50% of that blade, all of these teeth are tore off, turned into a grenade. Because what's happening is that blade is stabbing the wood. It's not being able to grab it and remove the chip. And so all that stress, that plate's already a little twisted, it just deplodes. The negative hook on a radial arm saw has that tooth leaning back, and so it's able to accept the chip. Now it's just a zero hook, but you see once that material comes in, the face is able to grab it. It's not leaning forward like on this other one. Everybody see that? Or we got a radial arm saw behind there, I can maybe make a better point. But here, they're just stabbing straight down. Lean that tooth back. Let's pretend this one's a negative hook, and you'll see that it's able to grab, and the face of the carbide, or the face of the tooth, is actually accepting the material, not the tops.
The tip is coming in at a shallower angle as opposed to like this or like this. It's coming in a little shallower angle.
Yeah, I mean here is just, it's banging on it. So, but it doesn't matter. This blade's going to want to run up on that material, and it will. But that negative tooth is allowing that stress to stay in on the circumference of the blade rather than getting up into the hub. And I mean,
it's catching right on the point. It's catching a little bit.
Miter box is not that bad, especially the new one. So you can actually run a table saw blade on the new compound miters as long as you pull it out and make your cut and push it in. Because now you're cutting like a table saw. So you're coming in and the material is being cut here. So it's hitting the face on a positive. If you came down and chopped on it, then you should.
So chop saw,
you should still have at least a zero. I mean, it's not near as dangerous as a radial arm saw, unless you're crazy, man, right? So the radial arm saw, because it's climbing, can take off on you, and that's where it goes nuts, because it'll cut faster than you wanted it to. A chop saw, you still have to apply that pressure. So unless you're actually jamming it down, you're probably not going to have the danger that you're going to have with the radial arm saw. The cut is still the same, but chances are you're not going to feed it so fast that it's going to have a drastic effect. It'll have the effect on the cut. I mean, your negative hook is still going to cut better and cleaner, because what it's doing is it's compressing the cut into the material rather than trying to lift it and tear it out.
The same thing true though with radial arm saw if you're doing a push cut rather than pull cut.
Correct, but I always try not to tell people to do that because that's dangerous, right? So
I don't like to do it myself.
Well, yeah, they pull it out and then they try to put the material in, and now you're reaching around a blade to make it push.
That's the reason why I don't want to.
Yeah, well, then it'd be okay, because now you're still making a conventional cut. Now you're no longer climb cutting.
Make sure I understand you. I thought you said that a negative rate you don't need, but you want a zero on your radial arm saw?
On the radial arm saw, you should have at least a 0 or negative.
0 or negative.
Yeah.
You do
It's not
need
saying
that.
that you don't need it, it's the reason.
Correct. You wouldn't have to have it if you were to make the push cut, because when you're doing a push cut, you're not climb cutting anymore, you're making a conventional cut. The climb cutting is where you have the right hook angle, or you're stressing the blade. Like, again, I read on, not on OWWM, but a couple other forums, it's like, well, yeah, get rid of the climb cut, you gotta put negative feet. It's always gonna be climb cut. Climb cut is a climb.
I understand. Okay, so when I call you guys and have you send me a radial arm saw blade, I don't see it on your website anywhere, everything's all spec'd out.
We blame John for that.
Okay, so I'll tell you, it's a radial arm saw, you'll send me the right blade,
Yeah,
right?
radial arm saw blade, yeah. But even then, I believe you take a radial arm saw blade, I mean, they're still running your table saw. The problem with a negative or a 0 on a table saw, the worst thing that's gonna happen is it's gonna wanna push the material.
Yeah,
You know, so
yeah, it's
it's
gonna
always
be, it's gonna
best.
be cutting up rather than cutting.
Yep, it's always best to have them, you know, mention the radial arm saw if you got that. Now, the combination planer, according to that, this blade here was the first blade designed for the radial arm saw, and it was just because of these combination of teeth. Because when the radial arm saw came out, people would want to turn it and rip with it, but this blade was the only blade that would cross-cut and rip. Again, back to the chip flow. If you take a combination blade, not just combination planer, but a regular combination or cross-cut, and you cut with the grain, and all the woodworkers out there know you can get a big chip versus cross-cut, you can get a small chip. And that big chip and a small blade would jam these things up and just wreak havoc on the saw. So this larger gullet right here was allowed to, the ATBs would score the material, which really does nothing in a rip, but then the square chisel grind would come through and lift it out and take that big chip and clear it out. So your rip blades, you need that big gullet when you're cutting with the grain of the material.